Welcome to the Declutter Diaries. I'm your host, Bonnie Hintonack with Bin Your Space. And with me, you'll meet Tina Wolf, a licensed therapist. We are going to explore the connection between your mental health and organizing and decluttering because it's a journey and we're on it too. Hey, you know what we have to do in order to have a podcast?
What's that?
I have to hit record.
You do. And we have now started this 3 times because distractions. And, you know, the last time Bonnie forgot to hit record.
Anyway, for the 3rd time, I'm very excited about this episode because
you've been waiting since
January to talk about Rick theory.
Been there, done that? Got the t-shirt?
Yes. Thank you. In a nutshell. Been there, done that. I can't find my t-shirt.
Well, I hear that all the time from Rick. I can't find things because you put it in a bin somewhere. Okay. I don't even know where this episode's going to go, so y'all just need to, hold on and enjoy the ride. We talked about the whole book thing with Rick and the situation that I went through with, getting rid of his books. And gosh, there are so many things that I could talk about when it comes to Rick theory. I really need to preface this with, we have been married 1 month short of 29 years. We have an amazing marriage. I am so blessed. God has gifted me with Rick, and that man has been patient with me. He has walked away and not killed me when I have put things in a bin or a box or a closet, because pre-organizational decluttered Tina, I just shoved everything in a box or a closet or whatever. So the journey with him has been long, and he has been gracious. But he's got some theories about where to put things and why that just crack me up and make me go, why? Why? We were just talking about my dining room table right now. Mm-hmm. That's a whole thing. So, yeah, I'm gonna breathe for a second.
Okay, you breathe. When we were working on your space, I remember him coming home and we just had stuff everywhere. And you were like, this can't be out. You wanted it to be done by the time he got home and not walk into a total mess. I just remember him walking up the stairs and, saying short clips of things. And his joke has always been there, B-I-N, done that. I can't find my t-shirt. Yeah, or I can't find my shirt. And I think that's great. But he can find his shirt.
Well, let's be honest and give Rick some credit. I move stuff around a lot.
Do you give him a tour?
No.
Oh, you gotta give a tour. One of the things that I do specifically with clients, but also with Ryan, is if I do move things, I just say, do you have a minute? Let me just show you. Here's where I moved this.
Yeah, no. I have an expectant kind of mentality in my house. I put it somewhere where it makes sense to me, and I expect that everybody else in the house...
just slam the door.
I'm going to.
Bye, doggos.
So I expect that everyone else in the space is...
My God.
Okay, this episode will be brought to you by Atlas and Moose. It's okay. Anyway, so I'm just very expectant. Well, this makes sense to me, so it should make sense to everybody. One of Rick-isms is that I have to think like my wife when I'm trying to figure out where she put something.
Oh.
And he will say, okay, where would Tina put this? Wait, I have to think like Tina.
That's a whole nother step.
That's
a lot.
Mm-hmm, it's terrible because as a therapist, my poor husband, when my therapy brain is turned off, I'm like, well, of course, the world is my oyster and everybody living in my world should understand that. And now, we've gotten to a place where when Rick sees your car in the driveway and knows that Ryan's not with you, he's like, oh God, what's getting organized today?
But I've built trust with Rick.
You have, because there were a lot of things that I wanted to purge. And you were like, that's not yours.
Well, and I work with clients and they're like, oh, well, that's my husband's. And I'm like, okay, well, let's make a hubby pile. Or we end up having a specific process, I guess, to go about that. What I don't want is for there to be more tension because you got rid of something that is your husband's or somebody else's, like we were talking about before with kids or roommates or even my grandparents. Sorry, Ryan is texting me. Might be a dog emergency down here.
Oh my gosh.
Interview at 2:30. I'm in the basement.
So
sorry, Ryan.
So due to podcasting and puppies, Ryan has now been sequestered to the basement. And that is where he has to work today.
And we've like shut ourselves in the office. The puppies literally have the run of the house.
Okay,
We're hiding and they...
Puppies really do. They're like children. They take over everything. And they have now taken over
my house and the podcast and Ryan's workday. It's just Moose. What is he doing? He's like, oh, finally everyone is gone.
I got rid of them.
Atlas is in his crate. Dad's downstairs. Mom's talking to Antina in the office.
Oh, jeez. So just saying, we have now had a puppy since July 8th of last year. And I now know why people in their 50s do not have children or puppies. Because I do not have the patience that I once had for all the things. And since we're talking about decluttering and the amount of stuff and dog hair that I now have to be mindful of on top of everything else, it's too much. Anyway, okay.
All
right, we got all that out.
10 minutes in, let's start over. I think the thing that sticks out to me, though, with Rick is him saying, but I need that out, as a visual reminder. Your dining room table that has almost like piles of reminders, because his whole thing is like out of sight, out of mind.
This is a great segue, because when you are two people living in a house that have grown up in very different environments, Rick grew up in a cluttered home. I grew up in a single family home where my mother was almost militant about things because I had to get up and the first thing I had to do was clean before I could do anything else on Saturdays. So for me, now as a therapist, realizing just clean space equates to a clean mind, when I look at surfaces, I need to see a clean surface. And a clean surface to me is an empty surface, not just clean as in I've wiped it down clean.
Clear.
It's clear.
Yeah.
And for Rick, it's, I need to touch that. I need to see that because it's going to remind me of something. Right now, we probably have 4 or 5 piles between the dining room and the kitchen of reminders for Rick. We have a tower garden. He needs to plant seeds. So there's a bin. It's moved like 4 times. And there's a pile of tools because we have to go to my daughter's to work on some receptacles. And then there's other piles because there's returns that need to be done because, you know, somebody impulse bought on Amazon instead of leaving it in their cart for 3 days. The difference between what he sees and needs in a space and what I see and need in a space is a 29-and-a-half-year work in progress.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
I'm thinking, too, Ryan is similar, where he has almost like this little corner of our kitchen island, and it's kind of where things stack up. So his is more a stack of reminders instead of separate piles of reminders. But I also put mail there that's for him because I know that he'll look there. He does need those reminders. So it's like, okay, well, then what can we do instead?
Well, I think if we're talking about living in a household with other people, there needs to be communication and conversation, because for years I just railroaded through Rick's stuff, put it where I wanted it, where it made sense to me, and didn't really give a whole lot of thought to how is this going to function best for you, where I can still be okay with it. So it's that collaborative effort on bringing two people together to facilitate a plan that's going to work for them both. And that's also the key to maintaining it. Because if one person creates it and the other person's not on board with it, you have chaos. And that's going to add to the already crazy cycle, because how often in the beginning did you clear something and Ryan came in maybe 5 minutes later and dropped something in that space and you're like, hand to the head. Really? Decluttering according to Rick, or, you know, Rick theory. We joke around about that, which, by the way, Rick loves the whole process. He's even been like in one of your reels.
Yes.
So we've had some fun, you know, doing things like that.
He's embraced it.
He has. He's also realized, as have I, that working with him means we're both happier in the space. So the way their brain operates, men are very much box thinkers. And when they're in a box, they don't see anything else. Whereas women, everything in our life is interconnected.
It's a noodle.
It is a noodle. It's that waffles and spaghetti theory.
Yes.
I don't care how old it is. It is relevant. I use it today in counseling with every couple, but it is real. And they get to a point where they don't even see it anymore. How do we integrate that?
The husbands?
Or just the other person. It could be a roommate. It could be a significant other. It could be
Well, I think
a child home from college who's going to be there for the summer, and all of a sudden they're used to like dropping their stuff all over their dorm room, and they're coming into your space and making it chaotic.
something you said not too long ago was about you and Rick doing this together. And I think honestly, it's that communication. Just like you said with the books, you can't declutter Rick's things for him. His things are his things. Ryan's things are Ryan's things. When it comes to his stuff, I try to put it all together. Part of your decluttering journey is then kind of making an accommodation, if you will, for items that belong to other people, because you can't get rid of other people's things. You can't make your husband declutter and organize. What you can do is be an example and just point out the fact that you feel so much better and see how they feel in the space. I mean, it did take a little bit for Ryan to get on board. Not that he wanted to keep everything, but now I can definitely see a difference where he has started to say no, because he is also very intentional with the garage, the shed, our closet. It's like, do I really need this? Or I've also had him do the 1 in, 1 out rule of like, you know, you got a new sweatshirt, which one is going to come out? And we just do that all the time because we go through our clothes, and you have to start, and you start small and you go slow and you do it together.
That together piece can be really hard for some people, though. I guess in my therapeutic brain, I bring everything back to conflict resolution, peaceful solutions, and two people living together and sharing a space. There might not be good communication where they can cohesively work together to develop that style plan, or there may be one person in the relationship that is more invested in what it needs to look like, or, you know, like I was in the beginning. I wanted everything a certain way, and I had blinders on of a different type. My blinders were, I've got to tackle this. I've got to get this done, and I don't really necessarily care about any of the other stuff. And we can't do that. You know, in previous episodes, we've talked about the emotional connection with possessions. So for Rick, it was probably kind of traumatic the first time he came home, and you and I had like the kitchen torn apart from one end to the other.
I did the basement where his tools are.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yes. But that was one of the last spaces.
Yes, it was.
Because we had done the pantry, the kitchen, the linen closet. So we had done all that first. And honestly, you built some trust with him. And it's not that Rick doesn't trust you. He's known you since you were like, I don't know, 12. But it was the connection that he had to things that stemmed from growing up in a home where everything was kept and everything was reminiscent of something. And then having a wife that a couple of years ago purged stuff that really didn't have any business doing. So we laugh and we joke about Rick and his been there, done that, can't find the t-shirt, and his little statements. But at the same time, he's come a long way in it too. And he's not good about putting things back all the time or keeping the space clean. But I show him grace, and I will just pick it up and now go, hey babe, are you done with this? Can I put it back? Or do you need me to leave it here for you as a reminder? And as hard as that is, it's what I got to do because we share a life.
The guys have come a long way for sure. As we're talking through this, we're on a journey of decluttering, organizing, being intentional with our things. We can be the example, and ultimately it's going to leak into whoever we share a space with, but it takes time. It's their journey. It's different.
And we have to respect those differences.
Yeah. Just because I like to get rid of things, you know, we still have books. I always talk about this bookshelf behind you because it's behind you. There are books on there that Ryan wants to keep that are reminiscent. James and the Giant Peach is on there. When is Ryan ever going? Never, ever is he going to read that. But he wants to save it. It's more sentimental. I have asked multiple times if there are any books on the bookshelf that he would like to donate or get rid of. Usually the answer is no, or we have a book bin downstairs and he doesn't want that in there either. So it's interesting because the book isn't being read, but it sits there and it's his, and I have to respect that. We share a space. So there it is.
You said a word. You have to respect it. And pairing that with something that we talked about in a previous episode of having things be honored in the space that they're in. For Ryan, he is honoring that item by having it there. And you may not think that way, feel that way, but he does. And you have to respect that because this is his space too. And that's a really difficult, it's a difficult concept.
But I don't have that emotional attachment to the book that he does.
Right.
So for me, it's like, why are you keeping that? Get rid of it. But for him, it is that whatever memory that brings up for him. So it is different. And like you said, it's both and. We have to have the respect and the honoring of the item. And I think, honestly, like that's what I feel like Rick Theory is almost in a nutshell, is the honoring and respecting is what goes so far in this process.
I have always been someone who avoids conflict in my marriage. We don't yell. We don't raise our voice. We don't argue. We talk about things. I will extend grace and mercy and love and understanding and choose not to blame him. I would rather just pick up the item and put it where it belongs.
Right. It's not worth a conflict.
No.
Just because an item isn't where it's supposed to be.
It's not worth allowing it to become an emotional trigger. Because what you're doing is you're allowing something or someone to disrupt your peace. And that's a choice you make.
Man, I have some growing to do.
Don't we all?
I get triggered when he says he's going to do something or put something away or, whatever, but then he doesn't do it. And it's days later. And it's like, I remember that he said he was going to do that, but he doesn't remember he said he was going to do that.
But was his intent to hurt you?
No. I mean, his intent is to help. But then I feel like I can't go back and do the thing. For example, vacuuming. He said, I'll vacuum the bedroom. Great. That would be very helpful. But if you don't do it for 3, 4, 5 days, I'm now remembering it has to get done because it's on my list, but you volunteered yourself, then just don't volunteer yourself. Like when you tell me that you're going to call me back that afternoon, I'm like, just don't say anything. Just don't even tell me that you're going to do that.
Yeah. But we all do it.
We all do it.
And it's because our intent is to help. Our intent is not malicious. And it goes back to that crazy cycle of being so busy and so caught up in things that we're like on the cycle and it's spinning and it's spinning and it's spinning and you pause it for a second. Oh yeah, I'll get to that. Not a problem. And then you're back on the cycle. It doesn't change in our marriages. It doesn't change in our roommate relationships. It's about respect. It's about grace and communication and balance.
That's a lot of things.
It is.
And you have to work on that. Your space isn't going to get decluttered and organized if you don't have conversations about the stuff that you have and having a plan to work through it together. Where is this going to go? What's the best place for this? I usually try to ask questions rather than tell someone, oh, this should go here, unless they specifically, why are you smiling?
Because that's a perfect example. I'm a dictator by nature. I'm just a very forward personality. And I will tell you that I think this should go here. So that's why you do really well at that, because I could not do your job.
I could not do your job.
What are you crazy? No, it doesn't go there. But yet in therapy, I can be a mirror, but in space, oh no. I'd be like, no, I know better. It should go there.
But I do always say, let me just try it. And if you really hate it, I will put it back.
You did that with Jason.
What did I do that with? I forget.
His food. Because he had his dishes up there.
Oh, that's right.
And you rearrange stuff. And he's like, I don't know, because I always go there for things. And you're like, just try it. If not, and I'll put it back. And he loves it. And it's great.
It is hard because when I come into a space, it's fresh to me.
Yes.
It's not lived in. And for me personally. There's no connection. I take my clients' thoughts and feelings, obviously, into consideration, but I'm coming in with fresh eyes where I'm like, is it okay if I try a few things? What do you think about this?
Going back to that collaboration, you collaborate with your clients, you have them think about the space. One of the things I've realized recently, and this is terrible, my husband and I have been together a long time, and he's been a project manager a long time. What does a project manager do? Space plan. Where is this best? Where would this be most functional? So I didn't have that aha moment until one of our fun nights together when you and I did my basement, my backstock area, and my hospitality closet. It was a couple of weeks later, we were starting to plan spring cookouts, and I talked through with him, as I often do because I'm a verbal processor. I was really frustrated because I couldn't talk to people at the other end of the table when we had like 20 people on the deck. And he says, well, give me a few minutes. And he's thinking through table positioning to optimize what was important to me. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, this man that I've been moving around his crap for 20 some years is like the ultimate in space planning. So now when I think about a space or stuff, I'll ask him, what do you think about this? I've got like this array of odd items that I don't really know where to put or what they would go with or belong with. And he's always got a great idea or plan.
I love that you recognize that and then use his strengths in that way. Like you were saying earlier, you like to say like, oh, well, this goes here, this is over here. Yeah, you're including him in your process. And then that also builds that trust factor in sharing a space and respect too. So yep. I think it really just comes down to that. When you're including, again, if it's parents, grandparents, spouse, children, partner, whatever, you need to go about it with grace, honor, respect, and communication. I think we're going to solve the world's problems. Yeah, this is it. We can close up shop now. We're done. Yep. We did it. Gosh, I love our conversations. Also, can I just go back to the fact that before we even started recording, we listened to the one that is being posted next week. Mm-hmm. And we were literally, one, quoting it, but two, you said the same phrase that was about to be said
twice
on the podcast. And it was like,
at least I'm consistent.
I know. But you were also almost like having a conversation listening to yourself. You're like, yeah, oh, that's true. And I'm like, it's yourself.
Okay, so this is one of the perils of being old. Nobody listens to you. So you're brought to a place where you have to have conversations with yourself. This is what 29 years of marriage will get you.
Honor, respect, and communication.
With myself.
Oh, that was great. I needed to laugh.
Yep, me too.
Thank you for tuning in to the Declutter Diaries. We hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode. Join our community, Bin Your Space, on Instagram and Facebook for more decluttering tips and inspiration. See you next week.